We have a really crucial pair of Game 2s tonight, but we're going to start our show with breaking news. Sandy Brondello out as head coach of the New York Liberty. In a statement released by the team, it says in part, quote, Sandy finishes her tenure in New York as the winningest coach in franchise history, and she took us to never-seen-before heights as the first head coach to lead the Liberty to a championship. They ended by saying, we wish Sandy the very best.
Out of nowhere, the WNBA just dropped a bombshell and axed Sandy Brondello, the same coach who literally just delivered the Liberty their first ever championship. The official line, we wish her the best. But here is the real kicker. People are whispering, and the rumors are getting loud, that it had something to do with her open praise of Caitlyn Clark. Yeah, you heard that right. Praising Clark might have actually cost a champion her job.
Sandy Brondello is out on the market. We got a shark out on the market. This is wild news. Sandy Brondello has been fired by the New York Liberty in shocking fashion. This is on ESPN. Breaking: New York Liberty head coach Sandy Brondello's contract will not be renewed for the 2026 season. The team announced the organization will begin the search for its next coach immediately. So we got Noel Quinn gone. Sandy Brondello, gone. I think the Indiana Fever need to take a look at this. I think, look, it's not too late to fix the mistake.
Look, I think we need to talk about this before the narrative gets buried. Do you genuinely believe praising Caitlyn Clark really got Sandy Brondello fired? Or was this just about New York hitting the panic button? All right, let's break this down properly, because this isn't just some normal end-of-season firing. This is the winningest coach in Liberty history, being shown the door less than a year after delivering the title that New York fans waited forever to see. And the way it went down, a quick, cold statement, zero warning.
In the WNBA history, all time, to win a title with multiple franchises and her 40 playoff wins. They are the second most all time behind Cheryl Reeves.
So let's rewind for a second. Sandy Brondello wasn't just some coach passing through Brooklyn. She was the architect. She was the one who took all those high-priced stars. Brianna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, Sabrina Ionescu, and actually molded them into a functioning championship-winning squad. Before her, New York was just a flashy, expensive roster with no direction. With her, they became legit champions. That should buy you some time and job security, right? Wrong. The Liberty dropped the news like it was nothing. We thank Sandy for her contributions and wish her the best in her next chapter. That is corporate code for we're cutting ties and we refuse to talk about why. But here's the detail everyone is missing.
Yeah, you never want to see a player get injured, and a player like Caitlyn coming back has had a few injuries this year. She's a great player. It would have been good for our club to see her, but hopefully we get to see her after most of the start and get to play them again. As for the All-Star, I'm excited to get to know her a little bit. I think that's the part of the All-Star. It's going to coach players that we haven't coached before and get them to know them a little bit and enjoy the whole celebration.
She's changed TV ratings, ticket sales, and jersey numbers across the board. But in today's WNBA politics, complimenting Caitlyn has become weirdly controversial. Some players resent the attention she gets. Some coaches act like acknowledging her somehow takes away from their own stars. And Brondello, she didn't play that game. She gave Clark her flowers publicly, and that rubbed the wrong people the wrong way. Especially in New York, where the Liberty's whole brand revolves around their own superstar core, Stewart, Jones, and Sabrina. They want the storyline centered on them. They're not in Indiana. But Brondello said the quiet part out loud. Caitlyn Clark changed the league. And right after that, boom, she's out. Fans started putting two and two together real fast.
New York Liberty just fired their head coach. People are confused as to why, because they won the championship last year. They made the playoffs this year. In sports, there's always a scapegoat when things aren't going the way that they wanted it to go. Clearly, in New York, the standard has been raised. As Coach Tibbs learned with the New York Knicks, making the playoffs does not guarantee that you are safe anymore. They have raised the standard. They're sending a message to the fans, to the team, saying, we don't want to just go to the playoffs. We need to go to the finals and we need to win. So if it's not the players on the court that are changing, it's got to be the coaching staff. So unfortunately, that did mean Coach Sandy.
Let's be crystal clear. Officially, the Liberty tried to frame this as performance-based. They expected championship or bust, and when the team stumbled in this postseason, the front office decided a change was needed. But if that's really the case, why emphasize in the press release that she was their winningest coach? Why highlight her playoff record? Why praise her leadership? You don't gas someone up like that if you're firing them strictly for wins and losses. You do that when you're trying to soften a blow that's actually about something else. And that something else was her comments about Caitlyn. Multiple insiders have said Brondello's praise didn't sit well with Liberty ownership. In a league where some veteran stars have publicly rolled their eyes at Clark, having your own head coach praising her impact was seen as disloyal. It sounds ridiculous, but that's the kind of petty politics running through this league right now. Look at the context. Earlier this year, Brondello said flat out that Clark was a generational player who elevated everyone around her. That's basically saying Clark is the standard. And you know who probably didn't like hearing that? The Liberty stars, who think they are the standard. Stewart didn't exactly clap back publicly, but the silence was loud, and New York's front office isn't about to let their franchise cornerstones feel like second fiddle. So yeah, the writing was on the wall. You can win a title, you can be the winningest coach in franchise history, but if you praise the wrong player at the wrong time, suddenly you're out. It's not about basketball anymore. It's about politics. And that is what has fans absolutely furious. Because Brondello wasn't just winning. She was stable. She brought credibility to a team that used to be pure chaos. She handled massive egos, intense media pressure, and sky-high expectations. Most franchises would kill for a coach who can manage that. But the Liberty tossed her aside like yesterday's news because she didn't toe the narrative. The WNBA constantly claims it wants to grow the game. Well, newsflash. Caitlyn Clark is the growth. The numbers don't lie. The ratings, the attendance, the headlines, they all spike when Clark's name is attached. Pretending otherwise is delusional. Brondello simply acknowledged reality. But instead of embracing it, the league and some of its franchises act like complimenting Clark is an act of betrayal. That insecurity just cost New York their best coach in years. Now, let's talk legacy here. Brondello didn't just win in New York. She also won a ring in Phoenix. She's one of only 2 coaches in league history to win titles with multiple franchises. Her 40 playoff wins, that's the second most all time. You don't just stumble into that kind of record. That's elite company. And yet, she gets shown the door over petty politics. Fans have every right to be stunned. This isn't just about one coach losing her job. This is about the WNBA sending a loud message to everyone else. Praise Clark too much, and you might be next. Keep the spotlight on the approved stars or face consequences. It's a terrible look for a league that claims to care about fairness and growing women's sports. Fans are already calling it out as pure insecurity, and honestly, they're not wrong. And here's the wildest part. Becky Hammon, coach of the rival Las Vegas Aces, basically came out and said she hated the move. She called Brondello a quality person and a quality coach. Translation: the Liberty messed up big time. When even your biggest rival coaches are saying you made the wrong call, you know you screwed it up. Meanwhile, Liberty players like Brianna Stewart voiced support for Brondello literally right before she got fired. That makes this even messier. If your MVP-level players are saying, "We have her back," and ownership fires her anyway, what does that tell you? It tells you this wasn't about basketball results. It was entirely about image and control. The fans aren't stupid. Social media blew up instantly, with people connecting the dots. The timing just lined up too perfectly. Brondello praises Caitlyn, the Liberty lose in the playoffs, and suddenly, she's gone. If this was purely about wins and losses, why wait? Why not fire her last year when the super team came up short in the finals? Why only now, right after she made pro-Clark comments that went viral? Exactly. The pieces fit together too well, and this matters for more than just New York. The whole league is watching. Coaches are watching. Players are watching. And the message being sent is dangerous. If you step outside the approved script, you might lose your job. That doesn't foster growth. That fosters fear. And in a league trying to compete for mainstream attention, fear is the last thing you want. Now let's spin this forward. Brondello isn't done. She's too accomplished and too respected. Seattle has an opening. The expansion teams coming into the league still need coaches. Don't be surprised if she lands on her feet very quickly. But New York? They just created a storm. Whoever they hire next is stepping directly into a pressure cooker. It's championship or bust. Don't praise the wrong opposing player. Don't upset ownership. And don't slip up. That's not coaching freedom. That's a trap. And as for Clark, she didn't ask for any of this. She's just playing basketball, doing what she does, and breaking records in her second year as a pro. But somehow, her name is being dragged into controversies she didn't create. That's the real shame here. Instead of celebrating the fact that Clark has boosted the entire league, including helping Liberty ticket sales when Indiana visited, the WNBA ecosystem is turning her into a dividing line. And Brondello just became the latest casualty. The Liberty officially called this a mutual parting. Please, mutual is the word you use when a breakup is completely one-sided, but you don't want it to sound brutal in the press. Sandy Brondello didn't spend decades building her resume, winning titles in multiple cities, and becoming one of the winningest coaches in history, just to suddenly wake up one morning and say, you know what, I'm done. This was the franchise pulling the trigger, and again, the timing is incredibly suspicious. The Liberty had just finished their season. Emotions were still raw, and instead of a calm off-season evaluation, the front office fired the coach, who literally just gave them everything they were asking for. Why now? Why this fast? Fans know why. It's about control. And praising Caitlyn Clark, the one player who already makes too many league veterans in cheer, was the nail in the coffin. Now, if you think this is just speculation, let's look at the pattern. Clark's name has caused drama all year. Opposing players have body-checked her, mocked her, and complained about the attention she gets. Opposing coaches have made passive-aggressive comments about her fame. Even referees have been accused of giving her a tougher whistle. And through all that, Brondello dared to say something positive. She called Clark transformative. She credited her for bringing new eyes to the game. That's all it took. Here's the irony. Brondello wasn't wrong. The Indiana Fever went from an afterthought to the most watched team in the league. TV ratings broke records. Road arenas sold out. Jersey sales skyrocketed. That didn't happen because of the Liberty, the Aces, or anyone else. It happened because Caitlyn Clark's name carried weight. Brondello acknowledged the obvious. But instead of applauding her honesty, the Liberty treated it like a betrayal. That's what makes this so pathetic. You'd think teams would want to ride the Caitlyn Clark wave, cash in on the exposure, and build momentum for the entire league. But no, too many people in power would rather protect egos than embrace growth. And now, New York looks petty for firing a championship coach over words. Let's talk about how fans reacted on social media. The backlash was instant. Liberty fans were furious. Fever fans were shocked. Neutral fans called it embarrassing. Even some former players chimed in, saying Brondello deserved better. And here's the kicker. People weren't just mad she was fired. They were mad about why. They saw straight through the PR spin and connected the dots back to Clark. Once that narrative took hold, the league's image took another massive hit. And image is everything right now. The WNBA is fighting for mainstream respect, trying to compete for prime TV slots, trying to keep the buzz alive. Yet instead of focusing on growing the game, they're busy playing political games with who you're allowed to praise. That is self-sabotage, plain and simple. Now what happens to the Liberty? That's a big question. You don't fire a winning coach without a plan. Word is they're already eyeing replacements, possibly even dipping into NBA assistants or making a splashy hire. But here's the problem. You can bring in whoever you want, but you can't erase what just happened. Players notice this stuff. Coaches notice this stuff. The message is out. Loyalty and success don't matter here. Step out of line, and you're gone. And let's not overlook the locker room fallout. Breanna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, and Sabrina Ionescu were close with Brondello. They trusted her. They believed in her. If ownership thought firing her would reset the culture, they might have just fractured it instead. Because how do you look your players in the eye and say win a title when you just fired the coach who gave you one? It makes no sense. Meanwhile, Brondello walks away with her reputation intact. She'll get another job. Seattle has an opening. Expansion teams are coming. Somebody is going to hand her the keys again because winners don't stay unemployed for long. In fact, Don't be surprised if she comes back and haunts the Liberty by beating them in the playoffs with a new team. That would be the ultimate karma. And speaking of karma, let's talk about Caitlyn Clark's role in this. She didn't ask for it. She didn't scheme to get Brondello fired. But her name carries weight, and the league can't seem to handle it. Everything connected to Clark gets magnified. Every foul, every play, every quote. And instead of embracing it, too many people are fighting it. That's why you end up with ridiculous situations like this, where a coach loses her job for saying something nice. Here's the truth. Nobody in the league office wants to admit Caitlyn Clark isn't going anywhere. She's already changed the game, and she's only in her second year. Ratings will keep rising. Fans will keep showing up. Kids will keep wearing her jersey. You can fire coaches. You can push narratives. You can try to redirect the spotlight. But the Clark effect is bigger than all of it. So firing Brondello doesn't silence the Clark conversation. It makes it louder. It turns it into a controversy that overshadows everything else. Instead of talking about the Liberty's future, people are talking about how fragile the league looks when one compliment about Clark sends them into meltdown mode. That's not power. That's weakness. And that's why fans are in shock. Not just because Brondello is gone, but because the league exposed its own insecurity in the process. It told the world that even its most accomplished coaches aren't safe if they don't toe the line. And you know what? Fans don't respect that. They see right through it. Sandy Brondello gave New York its first championship and still got fired, allegedly for praising Caitlyn Clark. If that doesn't scream insecurity, nothing does. Fans know the truth. Clark changed the league, and no amount of politics can erase that. Drop your thoughts below, smash the like button if you're fed up with the drama, and hit subscribe for more breakdown.